So I actually read a comic recently, and shocker, I read a comic, and I'm comic casual. Yeah, definitely been a minute. So I wanted to make sure I got my kind of like, weekly dose of me reading a new comic or something. So I decided to do that, and it was about Deadpool. And I haven't actually watched the Deadpool movie. Well, technically now I have, but at the time I didn't watch it. So I read this comic, and I was like, whoa, like this was pretty damn crazy. Let me go watch the Deadpool movie now. So I did that as well. I watched the Deadpool movie, totally through legal means and stuff like that. And I watched the Deadpool movie and I was like, wow, this thing was extremely graphic. Don't worry, no spoilers. I'm not here to spoil anything. But I was like, wow, this was extremely graphic. I can't believe Disney allowed so much, like, crazy gore. And hey, I'm all with it. I love it. I think it's great. I think Disney should allow a lot more spilling bloody guts. But that is kind of beyond the point. But I was thinking about this. I was like, wow, okay, this movie was pretty damn good. And maybe if I put a lens on it, I probably could nitpick quite a few things. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty damn good movie. And I was thinking, the comic I just read, I feel like this could be like flat out even better than the Deadpool movie. And you might be wondering, what is that comic? Well, I'm sure a lot of you already have guessed what comic I've read. And yeah, that's Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. Now, I honestly believe that this could be the greatest Deadpool movie that we will never get. Because, yes, Disney's, adding a little bit more gore, a little bit more crazy stuff, and it seems like they're a little bit more loose with it. But to get this loose, to get this much gore, to get this graphic, I mean, I don't think or ever see that ever happening. But I truly believe that Deadpool Killing the Marvel Universe, or Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, would have been or would be the greatest Deadpool movie ever. And it's going to be the greatest Deadpool movie that we'll never get. But it all starts with Deadpool basically getting brought into an institution by the X-Men. And he has these voices in his head, right? He has the whole yellow box voice where it's all these jokes and he's, yapping about different things, just like your boy when I read comics for, no apparent reason. And then you have the white box where it's a little bit more serious, right? And then you have his normal voice, right? And he gets sent to this institution by the X-Men, and he goes through this mental conditioning by someone known as Psycho Man. Now, this is interesting because I don't know how you're going to send Deadpool into an institution and that's going to be beneficial to him, but whatever. That's beyond the point. Obviously, this was not going to be beneficial to him. Sending somebody that can break through the fourth wall like on a consistent basis to a mental institution will never be a good thing and will never be a good idea. And in this scenario, it was obviously not a good idea. So this is where all of the mental conditioning actually gets rid of the other voices in Deadpool's head. So the yellow box, which was the jokes, the white box, which was the more serious tone Deadpool, it's all gone. And now it's really just him. It's just himself. And Psycho Man kills the voices in Deadpool's head, and now there's only one voice. Now you might think, oh, it must be the normal Deadpool voice. No, actually, a new voice comes in, which would be displayed by a red box. Yeah, shocker, red box. Okay, now you gotta keep in mind that Deadpool listens to these voices to basically make choices. And he, for the most part, has now donned a more serious or sinister, excuse me. Whoa, why did I just say it like that? Sinister-like voice, which he ends up just destroying the whole place. Then he would flat out go to a Baxter building where he would get tools and different things he would need to actually hurt, well, some more people, being that of the Fantastic Four, starting with Reed Richards, which he flat out melts Reed Richards. Like, he basically makes it so his whole elasticity is kind of just all this super stretchy, and he no longer can regenerate or bring himself back together, and he kind of like melts away, right? Like, that is what happens to him. So kind of like the whole Wanda thing, but a little less explodey, right? Then you get the whole Human Torch, which he ends up slicing the noggin off of him, which yeah, I'm not gonna say anything about that, but yeah, he does do that. And then the Invisible Woman tries to actually stop him by popping his noggin, which she does with a force field, and it works. Like, it works way too well. But of course we know, come on, he's invincible. He's got crazy regeneration. The dude's not gonna die, right? So, boom, he regrows his head back and just flat out ends her story right then and there. Then he proceeds to end the Watcher, which is kind of like a wild thing. Like, he just straight up goes, oh, like, you're not seeing what I'm seeing. You're not truly seeing what's actually happening, which is very, very scary. Like, we've always known that Deadpool was aware of people and aware of the comic and aware of the people around him and aware of the fourth wall, right? Like, that was like a thing and his whole gag. But the fact that he's like angry about it in a way, like, he's like, you don't see enough, the Watcher. Like, you don't see what I see. You only watch what's at the surface level. Like, you only see these people. And I'm like, oh, okay, that is pretty damn scary. I'm not gonna lie to you. That is pretty damn scary. And that's not even the end of it. I mean, he gets flat out scarier. So he then goes on to kill many Marvel villains, but then faces down with our good old Spider-Man. And Spider-Man actually gets the best of him, like, initially, right? He, like, really hurts him, and he, like, goes splat on the pavement and stuff. And I think it's just a testament to how, like, strong Spider-Man really is. But then, of course, you know, Spider-Man would even threaten, saying, like, oh, like, you're lucky that I don't just end you. You're lucky that I'm a bigger person. I'm a better person. That I'm not like you, and stuff like that. And then Deadpool pops the Spider-Man's noggin like a balloon, like a balloon. But, you know, you're not popping the balloon with like a fingernail or something. Now, he popped it with a let's just say a utility-like weapon that is very lethal. Okay, let's just say that. Now, he would, you know, go about and defeat, I guess you could say, you know, permanently defeat Spider-Man. Yeah, that's what we'll say. Permanently defeat Spider-Man. And then the Red Box would basically tell him to do whatever he wants. That there is no point of theatrics. There's no point of showing off. There's no point of having fun and doing this or doing that. But that's not Deadpool, right? And even Deadpool, like the original voice of him, he even says like that's not him. Like, he needs to have the theatrics. He needs to have a little bit of that pizzazz. So he comes up with some of his own, right? He basically makes a mass amount of ammunition and equipment with Hank Pym's Pym particles. That's a tongue twister, but yeah, he makes a bunch of like equipment, weaponry, ammunition, and sends it all to an Avengers meeting. Like, straight up just sends it all to an Avengers meeting and is all like, oh yeah, by the way, here we are. And he places it at that meeting, and then he goes there and he starts dissecting the Avengers. Now, for starters, it's a little scary how much thought he has really put into this, because let's be honest, he's invincible, so he could technically go into this fight, kind of do whatever he wants, and even if he loses, he never really loses. And I want to bring this up because we get obviously an appearance from Mr. Luke Cage, which, by the way, love Luke Cage, but he plans ahead of time for people like him. And I know that sounds really bad, but I promise I'm not trying to be racist. I am trying to say that Luke Cage is invincible, or his skin is extremely, extremely hard to penetrate. So he actually does drop a small, tiny bomb in their coffees, and that is how Luke Cage is done in. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty kind of a wild way to actually approach things. And then, of course, he then fights the one and only Thor, which wild as well, right? He fights Thor, and he enlarges Mjolnir, and it smashes Thor. And then he walks over to him and hits him with the boop. He boops him on the nose. He's like, yeah, I just made your hammer so big. So big. Okay, that sounds wrong too. But I just made Mjolnir so big, it now smashes into you, and you cannot pick it up because it's so damn massive, right? Wild. wild that that's the way he actually defeats Thor. And this is where things like kind of go off the rails, and why I honestly think it would be a great movie, because initially we do kind of still uphold that like jokey side of Deadpool, right? The theatrics, and I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. But slowly but surely, we descend into like absolute madness, right? And right here, where the red box or the more sinister voice asks him if he's happy. And he basically goes on to say that all of these people are just puppets, and so on and so forth. And then we get a fight with Hulk versus Deadpool, and of course, Hulk tears him apart. Like, it's not even really close initially, but once he turns back into Bruce Banner, that's when Deadpool can get him. And Deadpool's really thinking about these things. Like, he is in full-on mercenary mode. Like, normally you get this jokey Deadpool, like, oh yeah, I'm here to end you, but like, I'm gonna mess around to do this and do that. This guy is like, he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to actually structure out a foolproof plan. And that's exactly what he does. I mean, he did it to Hulk, and then he proceeds to do the same thing to Professor X. I mean, he cuts through a ton of heroes before this, but then he kidnaps Professor X, lures or has Professor X basically call the X-Men, leads them all into a ton of traps, right? A ton of traps. And it really feels kind of crazy now. Like, we are at the point now that it feels like this is no longer your Deadpool, your Merc with the mouth, your ha, yeah, Deadpool, right? Break the fourth wall. No. This is no longer that Deadpool anymore, right? We get a Deadpool who is convinced that he can solve everything now, right? That everyone thought that he's this funny man, but he knows things that everyone else would hate to know. And that's the proof of it, or the truth of it, and then eventually the proof of it, because Professor X gets his basically mind a hold of Deadpool's mind, and he literally goes brain dead because of it. What is happening? Seriously. Professor X goes brain dead because of it. Now, I want to say this. I'm pretty sure, if I read between the lines here, it's because he would then proceed to understand that none of them are actually real. Like, they're all just like written, right? Because there's a scene where Professor X is like, or Deadpool asks him, hey, do you actually think they feel pain? Or do you actually think you feel like you feel this, or you're tortured by this, or whatever, right? And he goes like, yes, of course we do. And Deadpool is like, well, I guess they're gonna feel it a lot more than you could possibly imagine then, if they really believe that this is real. Like, Deadpool is at the point where he is over that cliff. Like, way over that cliff. I mean, he is full on going at the idea that this is not real. This place is not real. It's all about, these people that are writing it, the MCU. And I wanted to bring this up because in the Deadpool movie that we watched, or that came out, this isn't really a spoiler, but there's a lot of funny jokes, right? And fourth wall breaks. And I feel like that's not a spoiler because, well, I mean, of course there was going to be funny jokes in fourth wall breaks. But a lot of those were also involving maybe past characters or maybe different franchises and stuff like that, right? It was amazing. I thought it was great. And I was just thinking to myself, like, wow, imagine if we did get a movie where Deadpool slowly descends into madness, right? Obviously, the whole point of, defeating or ending the entire Marvel universe. But we get him descending into madness to the point where he's literally thinking and saying to himself, like, yeah, none of this is real. Like, none of this matters. So I might as well just end it all right now, right? Like, that is wild to me. I mean, he even fights Wolverine, who he knows he can't kill, or at least that's like the idea. He says he can't die, but not because of the healing factor. Not because he's a mutant. Not because he's somehow invulnerable. No. It's because of popularity. He can't die because of popularity. And that really hit me. I was like, this is crazy. Like, what am I reading? Like, I got suggested this, I don't know how many times, like from friends and other people that really, really know comics way better than I ever will. But I got suggested this because they said, like, honestly, if you're trying to read something that you don't have to really sit there and understand that much of it, and you just want to see cool stuff happen, or you want to see Deadpool do cool stuff, like, yeah, watch this or read this. And I was like, all right, sounds good. So I honestly think there is quite a bit of layers to this. Obviously not as much as some other comics definitely have, but the idea that he's like fully coherent on the idea that they are all fake and that they are all made up and that none of this is real, and it made people literally go brain dead. Oh, it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing. I mean, there was a whole thing with Taskmaster, excuse me. I'm stumbling over my words for a second there, but there's a whole thing with him where he's fighting Deadpool and he's slowly but surely becoming more and more like Deadpool, and he's like losing his mind over it. Like, he's being terrified because of it, because he's learning and understanding the idea of a fourth wall, the idea of this whole other universe, the idea that they're literally fake, that they're not real. And that is like, he's like breaking his mind and making him terrified, right? And I'm like, what the, like, this is so deep, it's insane. So at the end of the day, I would absolutely love to see all this in the MCU. And of course, I mean, we have the multiverse and stuff, you know what I mean? You could just do like a mirrored version of the main timeline and then have, you know, Deadpool just, you know, get him up out of there. You know what I'm saying? Get him up out of there. I think that would be awesome. I would love to watch it. Now with that said, I don't think they'd ever do it. I know they're a little bit less afraid to do some more graphic stuff with Deadpool movies, but I honestly think this would be at a totally different level. And to be honest, I know a lot of comic book, like hardcore comic book fans, if you didn't do it picture for picture, like if you didn't do like everything for the most part exactly the same, that a lot of people wouldn't like it, right? A lot of people would be like, oh, this was bad. Like, no, like you shouldn't have never done it in the first place, right? But I will say this. Why won't we get this? Now, why won't we? Well, there's many reasons. For one, too much gore, right? Sure. There's a lot of gore, for 100%. Really no storyline concept there, right? And there's not much to take away from it. It's more of like a one-off parody in a way, quote unquote, but I think it would still be awesome to watch, by the way. But yeah, the storyline probably would be a little bit iffy, but you know, we've had some bad storylines in the whole Marvel universe thing, so I don't, you know, it'd be all right. But the true reason, by the way, that we'll never get it, is that it would not only make for the greatest Deadpool movie ever, but it's because the budget would be so freaking insane on that movie. It would be ridiculous. Like, they could possibly make money off of it. Don't get me wrong. I honestly think they probably would end up making money off of it. But think about the characters and the actors you would have to hire for a movie like this. And especially the way I'm imagining it in my head. And I'm sure a lot of you are imagining it in your head, right? The original Avengers. You know, you have your Fantastic Four. You have your X-Men. So, like, all of that stuff. And there is a joke made in the Deadpool movie involving a lot of money being thrown at certain actors and, you know, screen time. I won't say much more than that. But that is kind of where my head goes, where it's like, these people, you would have to bring them all into the movie. And even if their screen time wasn't that much, you know damn well you would still have to pay them so much money. It would be ridiculous. So we probably won't get it. And we probably will, actually no, we will never get this movie. But if you come to this video and you're like, hey, it just announced, we're getting it, we're getting the movie. Hey man, that would be amazing. That would be awesome. That'd be fantastic. I don't think it's going to happen, but truly I do believe that this would be the greatest Deadpool movie that we will never get. With that said though, if you enjoyed, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And also, if you have any suggestions, please leave them below. I always need some comic suggestions so I can, you know, get to read in a little bit more. a little bit more reading on some more comics. So please give me suggestions. I would love to hear them. And if you enjoyed this video, YouTube believes that you'll enjoy this one, so might as well go check it out.